I'll just tell you this. The Los Angeles Rams, the Super Bowl Rams, are a partial culprit in this offseason. Because just like Tyreek Hill says about them picks, look and see what the Oakland Raiders have done. No picks in the top 85 in this draft. Look and see what the Miami Dolphins have done now. No picks in the top 100 of this draft. So the statement about the picks is echoing league-wide.
Well, and you're right, and that's one of the big reasons why these deals are happening. I called it yesterday the ramification of the NFL, but it takes two to tango. If every team approached this like the Rams, these trades wouldn't happen. You need to have some teams who value the veteran player, willing to give up the draft picks, willing to pay the player more than his current team will pay him. And you have to have a current team that is willing to say, you want to give me 5 draft picks for a guy that is trying to get $72.2 million fully guaranteed out of me for the next 3 years, and I don't want to pay him that much? I know him better than anybody. I've had him since 2016 on my roster, 28 years old. He's still got some good years left, but I don't want to pay him what you want to pay him, and you want to give me all those picks? Hell yeah, I'll take all those picks. Hell yeah, I'll offload this guy that's going to suck up a huge chunk of salary cap space when I could go out and draft some guys and pay them a wage scale contract that is going to chew up a lot less of the cap. Yeah, I'll gladly do it. So you have to have both sides of that. That's the one thing everybody needs to remember. It can't just be F them picks. You got to have other teams that are ready to say, we'll take them if you don't want him. And we'll give you this player with name recognition. We're ready to move on if we can get all these picks and reload from the bottom up and create some new Tyreek Hills, create some new Davante Adams that maybe we can flip later. But you got to have both. If they're all thinking one way, and for years, they all thought the way of, we're not giving up our veteran player. We're not giving up our established talent. We're not going to trade him in for a roll of the dice with these lottery tickets. Now you've got teams that are willing to go get and give up the draft picks and make those moves, and teams that are still valuing those picks. As long as you have both, we're going to have off seasons like this.
Mike, I just keep thinking, so I had a long conversation last weekend with Dave Ziegler, the new general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders. And one of the things that we were talking about is about how, just as you say, everybody sees this differently. Everybody. And so when everybody sees it differently, you're going to have a general manager with a really good player view Davante Adams, let's say, differently than Dave Ziegler would. Okay, so Brian Gutekunst didn't want to get rid of Davante Adams. But the fact is, when a general manager is confident in his ability to replenish a roster, and I told a bunch of people this week. Remember, Davante Adams was the 53rd pick in the draft when he came out. The Green Bay Packers hold the 53rd pick in this draft. And it's the exact same thing that Kansas City did with Tyreek Hill. Now, if you sort of look back on the way that Kansas City has built its roster, just remember, because this is really a philosophy on how you should construct your team. And in 2016, the Chiefs picked a tarnished college player with great talent, but he had been tarnished because of his domestic violence accusations. And so they were able to get him with the 165th pick in this draft. And if you ask Andy Reid and Brett Veach, the general manager, I guarantee you sit them down for a long time, they will tell you the draft is a risk-reward business. And as you go down the road, look, no one could have predicted that Tyreek Hill was going to be as good as he has been, in his first 6 years or 5 years in the NFL. But every team that is confident in its player selection process, everyone is going to say, they're not going to say F them picks. They're going to say, if I get pushed to the wall in a contract negotiation, give me those picks, and we're going to do just fine with them.
That's right. And then they hope, when you take those picks, that they are going to find the players who become the stars, who become the nucleus, who become the future of the team. That's the trade-off when you adopt the F them picks attitude. You're giving up all of these opportunities to find guys who can become part of your team. And where the Rams have done well, they trade away the most valuable of the lottery picks, the lottery tickets, but they've hit on their mid to late round guys in drafting and developing.
Yes, they have.
Because you still need to have that young core that grows as the years go by. You don't want to get to the point where you have no one in that age range of 25 to 28 that is the nucleus of your team. That's the risk you take when you send so many picks away. And when you look at what the Chiefs did in trading Tyreek Hill and the picks they got all through the draft, they, from their perspective, they had no qualms about this. They were happy about this opportunity. Now, again, they know Tyreek Hill better than anyone.
So.
I know of at least one team that did its homework on Tyreek Hill and was like, this guy's become a little bit too much of a diva for our liking. I think the Chiefs may be happy to move on from him. They'll go start fresh with someone else. They still have Patrick Mahomes. We saw all those guys a couple of weeks ago in Indy running 4.3s. They'll just go draft a couple of those guys, and they'll be playing with Patrick Mahomes. Yep. And we were going to move on from Tyreek Hill at some point anyway. He was either going to retire, or he was going to get cut, or he was going to get injured. We move on from him at a time where we can get more than we ever would have dreamed we'd get for this guy. We traded him at the right time. We sold high. We bought low and we sold high. And we got 7 years of great play out of him. And now we move on. And that's how they justify it. And right or wrong, we'll find out. It's going to be a great laboratory experiment. What does he do for the Dolphins? What do those picks do for the Chiefs? Will it be a win-win? Shireen Williams was saying last night on PFTPM it could be a lose-lose. It could be. It's going to be fun to watch. And I think other teams are going to not just look at what the Rams did, because they're copying the Rams now. Hey, the Rams have said F them picks and they won the Super Bowl, so we're going to say it too. If enough teams say it, I mean, they're all not going to win the Super Bowl. Somebody's going to fail miserably at this exercise, which is going to make it even more fascinating to watch it unfold, Peter.
Well, Mike, I mean, you talk about how these teams are being constructed now, and let's just remember one thing, and you just mentioned it a minute ago, about the Rams, okay? Because just remember that they have a bunch of day 3 picks who became really, really important for them. I'll give you 3 examples. Sebastian Joseph Day, who became the glue to the interior of that defensive line. Greg Gaines, a 4th-round pick who late this year, every time Aaron Donald opened his mouth when somebody would ask him how great he was playing, he would say, well, look at Greg Gaines. He's helping me. And then, Nick Scott, the safety, the 7th-round pick, who was drafted only as a special teams player in 2019, he came out and he was one of the best safeties in football in the last 2 months of the year. So you're exactly right. You can belittle your picks all you want, but if some of them in the late rounds of the draft do not come through, I will guarantee you're not winning the Super Bowl. It just doesn't work. You can't build such a top-heavy team and have nothing on the bottom. And I'll just say one other thing about what the Chiefs are doing. You know what? You're right, and Shireen is right. It's possible that this pick turns out to be, or this trade, I remember in baseball one time when I was growing up, there was a big trade made, and I forget which one it was, and it didn't work out well for either team. And you know how people, when they describe trades, they say, hey, that's a trade that's going to help both teams. Well, some of these trades you look at in retrospect and say, man, that's a trade that hurts both teams. But in this particular case, I am reminded of what Jimmy Johnson always said about draft choices. What he said is, everybody's, man, you're brilliant in the draft. You're such a great drafter and all that. And he goes, I'm not smarter than anybody else. I just give myself a lot more wiggle room and room to fail by having more picks than anybody else every year. And that is what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. They've got the 29th and 30th overall picks in this draft, in a draft that is absolutely chock full of wide receivers. And I just want to say one last thing about receivers and Kansas City. And everybody will think, boy, it's a good thing that this never did happen. But just think about it for a minute. The year that Henry Ruggs came out in the draft, I found out late in the draft process and confirmed after the draft that, as bizarre as it sounded, because they had, at the time, they had Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill, and they had a great crew of wide receivers. Demarcus Robinson. They were just rich at the receiver position. Brett Veach, if Henry Ruggs had fallen to about 20 or 21, he had plans to aggressively try to trade up from low in the round to go get Henry Ruggs. And you would think, you got an embarrassment of riches at receiver and tight end right now. Why would you do that? And his whole thought was, you can never have enough great weapons for a great quarterback. So that's what I thought of when I saw this Tyreek Hill trade being made, that I am really interested to see how the Kansas City Chiefs grade all these receivers and move around to get one that they really love.
Well, that's right. And there has to be multiple that they've already scouted to the point where before they give up Tyreek Hill, they have a sufficiently high degree of confidence they're going to get one of these guys. And now it comes down to when you pull the trigger to try to move up in round one to get the receiver that you really like. And for the other teams who are drafting ahead of the Chiefs, beware. If there's a receiver you really like, you may want to trade up before you get leapfrogged by the Kansas City Chiefs. 5 years ago, as Sean Payton is watching Patrick Mahomes slip toward his clutches, here comes the Chiefs to jump the Saints and get Patrick Mahomes. So the Chiefs know when they have to make their move. And this is a lot of the stuff that becomes cloak and daggerish when you get into the draft. And there's certain things that make their way out for us to talk about, and there's certain things that don't. Nobody knew that Peyton loved Mahomes. Nobody knew that Andy Reid loved Mahomes. People got to keep their mouths shut. It's not good for us, but it's good for the teams. You keep your mouth shut about who you really like, and you just go get him. And if you like one of these receivers and you're somewhere between 10 and 20, you better be careful, because if you don't maybe move up a spot or two before the Chiefs get a chance to pick you off, you're not going to get that guy. And I think that's how it's going to play out. It's going to make the draft fascinating, because they're going to get one of these guys they really like. Or they're going to keep their mouths shut for so long that whoever they get, they're going to say, that's the guy we wanted all along. That's part of the PR success for the draft. You got to be ready to not say anything. So the guy you get, that's the guy that was at the top of our board. That's the guy we wanted all along. So, and whoever they get, again, they're pairing him up with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. And now they have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They have Juju Smith-Schuster. They have Mecole Hardman. Something's got to give here, but I think they're going to try to find somebody that they can groom to become an impact player like Tyreek Hill was.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.